T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very fascinating and fun episode of the Midheaven Podcast. It's your host, Hermes and Hades. This is the Peace Dealer, and we're rocking with
Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me and Mike for a very special episode that we're doing in honor of Scorpio season.
Oh, yes.
I'm a sick son of a bitch. I want to talk about the astrology of a serial killer. I really want to talk about this. Okay.
This, I think, is one of the most fascinating astrology because after this episode, you'll realize that you may be around one who's dormant and has not awakened or activated. It might be you watching this. All of you who watch serial killer documentaries, wondering how you'll get away with the murder. This might be an episode for you.
That's like such a thing right now. Like that and like the murder mystery podcasts. And I mean, like, I feel like I'm a sun Scorpio and my sun's conjunct Pluto, so I'm always very interested in like the fucked up inner workings of people.
She understands the true nature of death, sex, and rebirth.
Yeah, so I'm just very fascinated. My Mercury's in the mix too, so I'm always just kind of like what makes people tick. But I thought this would be a fun episode to do during Scorpio season and like right around Halloween, obviously, to talk a little bit about what the inner workings are of just some stats on what's most common. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen like a lot of like shitty Tumblr and Instagram posts like these are the signs that are most likely to be serial killers, which is mutable signs, by the way. And
I love that. It's very fascinating. As you can see, there's like Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, even though, and correct me if I'm wrong, statistically, Cancers have the highest percentage of not serial killings, but like murders by passion. Like they just got in a moment and they killed. But I personally believe that the reason why you only see mutable signs is because Aquarius and Capricorn and Scorpio, they don't get caught.
Scorpio
does not get caught.
Scorpio doesn't get caught.
Aquarius is not getting caught. So like, if anything, they might send mutable signs to do the dirty job for them because we're their second house. So it is what it is.
That makes sense. Well, a lot of this episode is going to be us talking about before we even get into the statistics, because we're going to break it down more than just the sun sign. We're going to talk about aspects. I'm going to give you guys all kinds of information about what comes up pretty prominently in a lot of these groups. And then we're going to break down 3 of what I feel like is some of the most infamous serial killers charts. We're going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, and Ted Bundy. We're going to look at their charts and talk a little bit about our interpretations and how it relates to the crimes that they have committed. It's a little bone chilling.
Oh yes, and just so right off the bat, the one question you don't want to ask is what zodiac sign is the serial killer? What zodiac sign is most likely to kill? Because really, the zodiac sign is just going to give you a flavor of how the person will do it.
Right.
So it's not like one sign is more likely to do it as much as this sign will let you know how they do it. This sign, Sagittarius, will show you how wild they are. Scorpio will let you know how strategic and planned out they can do it with Virgo. So.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Before we get into the aspects, what would you consider some of the most prominent aspects specifically of serial killers?
Great question. I feel for sure, especially with rape too, Pluto aspects, debilitated or in its exaltation. A lot of people like to throw debilitation, but I think even if they're well aspected, that could be an aspect. So that could be a factor. So Pluto aspects, Saturn aspects for sure to the planets, to the nodes, and possibly Mars square Pluto, Mars square Saturn, anything that would really denote this sense of extremity and passion. Anything to kind of denote this detached sense too. So I want to kind of say Capricorn and Aquarius aspects.
Okay.
Scorpio aspects too, just because of how intense and obsessive that anyone, not just Sun and Scorpio, can deal with the energy. But I do want to maintain Pluto, Uranus aspects, Saturn aspects, and believe it or not, I feel like Neptune aspects are really underrated. And Neptune aspects will probably never get caught. Even though Pisces have gotten caught, I feel like Neptune aspects may not get caught because of how they can literally put a veil over everything. So
I would say, because I haven't fully gone through this, but just me personally, I would think like a really heavy fourth house, because that's what we hide.
Yeah.
Or even perhaps what's buried or what's stashed away, right? So it's like the ends of situations. I would also think like a North Node Mars aspect would be another thing that I would look for. Obviously, hard Pluto Mars aspects, Pluto Saturn aspects is something else that I would consider very kind
8th
of
house, 12th house too.
like macabre.
Yeah.
What else? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, multiple planets in the 8th, Saturn Moon aspects maybe, Venus Pluto squares.
12th house aspects will reveal someone who you don't know like you think you do. So they have a mask, but you don't even know at all who they are behind that mask. And so it's like that neighbor that's friendly, and it's like, oh, I had no idea you hide children in your basement. Like, wow.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So let's get into it. So let's get into the facts, the statistics that I have pulled from a number of different sources
awesome,
online. So one of the first things that I have here is the house placements that gave results, or most results. Uranus in the 9th house.
I got that.
Okay. Which kind of makes sense,
From
actually,
the 8th,
when you think about that. Uranus in the 9th. Pluto in the 11th.
That's deep. 5 out of 35 for mass murderers, 18 out of 34 for the total of all three groups. Wow.
And then the moon's north node in the 11th house.
Moon's north node in the 11th. That's deep.
But check this out. These are more or less some of the most common aspects for mass murderers. So Sun in stressful aspect to Venus and Mars midpoint. So midpoints, we've said this before, don't sleep on midpoints, but the Sun in aspect to the midpoint, I would assume a conjunction or a hard angle. Right? Moon in Sun in conjunction with Venus and Mars midpoint. Moon in stressful aspect with Mars. Mercury in stressful aspect with the vertex. Mars in stressful aspect with Sun Uranus midpoint. Juno in stressful aspect with the Uranus ascendant midpoint. Neptune in stressful aspect with the Mars Ceres midpoint. Pluto in stressful aspect with the Moon Venus midpoint. Pluto in stressful aspect with the Uranus vertex midpoint. And the ascendant in stressful aspect with the north node of Mars.
And these results gave 50% or more above chance. So most of these people had this. And we also have to take into consideration that you can have a normal or amazing chart, but then you can have stressful transits that also trigger that and conduce uncharacteristic responses from even the average person to take a well-meaning person and maybe in that week give them a serial killer mentality. We've all been through that place where we feel like doing something that's outside of our character. So let's not sleep on transits too, because
transits, progressed transits, that can be something else that can kind of pop up that's like really prominent.
And progressed placements.
Obviously you guys have seen that stuff that kind of popped up. I had it here somewhere that was like talking about there was a laundry list
serial
of
killer trading cards.
Serial killers that are mutable signs. But also things like, a really prominent or aspects with like Mercury symbolizing how you think, how you're dealing with anxieties, thoughts, and feelings. And then also equally like stuff that pertains to Mars. I had something else here. Where was it? Is it here? Oh no, that's the same one that we're looking at. Other potential factors. So the node in stressful aspect to the 12th house cusp. Saturn opposed the 12th house cusp.
Plus Sun in Gemini or Sag or Capricorn. That's hilarious.
Yeah, Mercury in the signs of Scorpio or Sagittarius. Yeah. The moon making a stressful aspect to Venus within a 5-degree orb combined with Mars or Saturn, Neptune or Pluto in the 12th house. Like the deeper that I go into this shit, I'm like, I'm a fucking serial killer. Like, literally. And it's interesting because I remember, like, I mean, I remember being in, like, middle school being like, oh, yeah, like, I was really interested in, like, learning about serial killers. Not, like, really, like, the gruesome sides of, like, how they kill people, but, like what would possess somebody to want to do that?
Motivation, yeah.
Right? Like,
what's the psychological factor?
You're probably just sitting here like, fucking white people are fucked up, huh?
I mean, it's definitely interesting.
You're thinking about how fucked up white people are.
I mean...
There's not a lot of, like, black serial killers.
Or mass murderers? That's interesting.
Are there any? I'm gonna Google it. Hold on.
That's interesting. I know there was Dorner,
Watch the FBI is gonna be like watching myself, my search. Are there any black serial killers?
I mean, the most mass murder really happens.
Samuel Little
is in the hood.
Who dis?
But
who dat? He's black. I've never heard of him.
Confessed to 93 murders. Oh, okay.
Strangled 93 of his victims between 1970 and 2005.
We need a birthday.
The FBI has entered the chat.
FBI alert.
We weren't flagged. We are now.
That's crazy.
That's wild.
Samuel Little confession. No, that's very interesting.
I mean, I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, like, white men are so just like...
Oh, 5 myths about serial killers and why they persist. They're a well-documented case of African-American serial killers. And actually, that's another thing that I wanted to say, too, because, like, oh, there we go. Myth 2. Myth 1, all serial killers are men. Myth 2, all serial killers are Caucasian. So we don't have to say all, just maybe most. But regardless, like, it's still wild because...
Eugene Watts, a black man from Michigan, known as the Sunday morning slasher, who murdered at least 17 women in Michigan and Texas.
Anthony, so that's the thing, like, you hear about all these famous serial killers, but one thing I noticed when you watch, like, and this isn't the best reference, but one thing you notice when you watch, and I love that article about myths, because we do think they're either loners, they're mentally ill, and some of these people could
Some of the most fucked up people are people who are just going to be, like, hidden in plain sight.
Or, like, functional members of society, like a doctor who, like... or someone who's just an orphanage.
I've come to the conclusion that I could never kill anybody. I could hide a body.
But that's the thing.
That's
like,
the difference.
Do you think serial killers start off that way? Like, maybe they feel like, oh, maybe it's not like maybe they choke. Well, some of them probably do, right? But I love this.
Maybe they start off by killing cats.
Or you're right, or they start off small. But like, this is where you never know what might make someone snap. Or when you watch these detective shows, you see that. Oh wow, they're finding a serial killer. Like that's usually the big story of the arc.
Right.
So it's like,
but a lot of them are like fucked up, and they'll continue with it. Like think about like the ZODIAC killer.
The ZODIAC killer, yeah.
And how he like really got off on like the whole like people knowing, that he had like a whole finesse to everything, and like he was very famous. Yeah, but he was doing what he was doing strategically.
Right. And like
I don't know.
That's the really fascinating thing to me. Like we know about the famous ones, but how common is serial killing? Because if someone wanted to kill someone every week and get away with it, it's something that you can incorporate in your lifestyle like Dexter. And like realistically, at least get to 90, 30 people before you ever get caught if you do.
Didn't Dexter have a motivation though?
Right.
Wasn't he like a vigilante killer?
He was more a vigilante, right. But like basically like how many more serial killers are out there that we don't even know exist or ever been caught? Like do you think this is something that's more common or is it something that's rare?
I don't know. I feel like every so many years we hear like a wave of something like coming of like hysteria obviously in like the news about there just being like a string of like killings. I mean maybe it's just because I lived in Southern California for so long, but it's just like a thing. But obviously the same way you hear about like all kinds of other crimes and shit, but like we don't hear about the mass of those crimes in the day-to-day life. Like we'll hear about it when it makes mainstream news, or like for example recently this whole thing with like that girl that went missing and like nobody could find her, that Gabby chick who was the vlogger, the van life vlogger. And yeah, we were talking about it last time. So recently we were just saying like hopefully she's okay, but I had a feeling something was going to come out around the full moon because the full moon was on her son. She was they analyzed her body and they found that she was strangled and she was left in the woods.
Oh my God.
And the boyfriend obviously is still at large. Nobody knows where he is.
Oh shit.
The reality of the situation is this: shit like this happens all the time. We don't always hear about it unless it's like totally sensationalized in the news, right? So I think it's interesting that many people have spoken recently about being like, well, obviously, you know, she was a well-known kind of internet person, but you know, women go missing all of the time, and not just white girls who make the news, but it's a multitude of people who go missing that might be all different, you know, genders, ages, ethnicities, whatever. But I think that what's so maybe fascinating, at least culturally right now, about like serial killers is the fact that they can like continue to keep doing this and like maintain a somewhat relatively normal life.
Right, and
like,
balance that. Which I think would make sense why a lot of those people could be mutable signs. Because a mutable sign can like disassociate aspects of their personality and like compartmentalize them for different places. Where I feel like fixed signs do it too, it's just not as noticeable.
Right. So did you see the whole Ted Bundy thing that they did, and it was Zac Efron, where he was like Ted Bundy?
No.
Okay, you have to watch it. I think it's on Netflix.
Is it a recent movie or something?
It's somewhat recent, like the last year or two, but it's like basically like a whole like story about like Ted Bundy. And so we'll get into the charts, but I think maybe it's weird because he's one of the few that's just like, oh yeah, like a lot of women were like, oh, he's very attractive and he's very charming. It's kind of fucked up, right? They're gonna have like adult Zac Efron like be Ted Bundy, like of course fucking slash my guts out and fuck me proper, right? Because it's fucking adult Zac Efron. Sorry, you don't get it. You're not like a 30-year-old like woman, Caucasian woman, but I mean, hello, adult Zac Efron.
Okay. Libra Sun, Virgo Moon.
Fuck. That Cap, I thought it was the Cap Moon. No, Cap Rising.
Cap Rising, yeah. Cap Rising.
Zac Efron is like one of those, like one of the few that when he was like 17, 18, 19, he was like doing Disney Channel, and then something
High School
happened
Musical.
The last 5 years, and I was like, holy shit, he's a man now. It's because I have so many planets in Cap, but oh man, don't even get me started on Zac Efron.
Word.
But for him to come out and be Ted Bundy was like super twisted, and I think it was smart because when you see like everything that was going on during the trials of when, you know, he was basically really going through everything, he was very like charming and charismatic, and I mean he was like this like total ladies man. But then to come to find out, like, you know, he was a serial killer, a kidnapper, a rapist.
A necrophile.
He confessed to killing 30 women, revisited the crime scenes of where he committed the sexual acts with the corpses, decapitated about a dozen of them, and finally died in the electric chair in 1989. Let's look at his chart. I bet there's some sexy stuff going on there.
Let me find out.
Ted Bundy. So we've got Ted Bundy here. His birthday, November 24th, 1946, 10:35 p.m. in Burlington, Vermont.
Sun, Moon, Sag, Leo rising. So we got the fire with Mars. So this is someone who's very impulsive.
Look at that stellium of planets in his fourth house.
Yep, there you go.
Sun, Mars, Moon, and Sag in the fourth.
With Scorpio too.
Ooh, and he's got that Venus retrograde in Scorpio. It's right on my sun.
That's wild. And then he has Pluto and Saturn near his AC.
So here's what's interesting, right? All of just the focus on the bottom portion of the chart and just the internal, right? All the internal stuff, which is all conjunct the South Node. This Moon's conjunct the South Node. So he's got Uranus in opposition to his Moon. And Lilith,
wild,
yeah. But he's a Venus retrograde in Scorpio. And I'm not going to say if you have that you're a serial killer, but you're an extra kind of fucked up.
In Scorpio too.
I've met a lot of those men, and they're dark. There's something off there. I think it's the South Node conjunctions. I think
Plus,
it's
there's
also
an obsession too, and we can see the necrophilia Leo with the Pluto and the Scorpio too, and a desire for it.
Yeah.
Which
well,
is
the
very
Sun, Mars. The Sun, Mars, but Saturn and Pluto sitting in his 12th house. You know.
And so we see the 12th and the 4th, which is like he has that charming personality, but behind that mask is heartless evil. And I just love seeing that he has Saturn and Pluto next to his AC. Like that's just this very obsessive, extreme, detached card. I mean, Saturn gets a heartless,
Venus square Pluto also
moniker or reputation. But yeah, and Venus square Pluto. Oh my gosh, like that really goes a long way too with that intensity. So we now see a correlation with at least Ted Bundy, this Plutonian aspect that makes a perfect trine with his Mars.
But the Virgo
too.
rising really makes sense because if you've seen like how he looks, like in some of like the court appearances and things, he's got like the side parted hair and everything's very clean cut and he's like very put together and he's got a suit on and it's very charming. But when you really start to analyze the aspects, and I'm really looking at his Mercury square the ascendant, Mercury retrograde, right? And it's conjunct Venus. So obviously he knows how to psychologically kind of charm people and like bring people in. And also the fact that his chart ruler is retrograde, it's square the ascendant, it's conjunct Venus.
So you don't recognize the sun and the moon as chart rulers?
Okay, well, I was thinking of like the Virgo first house.
Oh, the Virgo,
but,
I see, yes.
But okay, so the sun, but still the sun's conjunct, no, Virgo rising, right? Or is it Leo rising?
Leo rising.
Oh, it's Leo rising. Yeah, okay, you're right. So it's still sun, it's directly on the IC.
Virgo in the first though, so I see what you mean.
Sun, Mars. I don't think that's enough. I mean, the Sun, Mars is aggressive, but you've got a 12 degree, you've got a 10 degree, 11 degree difference there. I think maybe it's the Moon, Mars.
And then you can say him getting famous
because the Mars is the ruler of the 8th, conjunct the Moon.
Yeah.
Ruler of technically the 11th. I just think it's maybe the North Node Uranus and the Moon opposed Uranus. I don't know. That's definitely a chart that has a lot to hide though.
Moon opposed Uranus, especially in the unpredictability of how he feels like doing it and also what made him famous unexpectedly too.
Well, I mean, just the fact that you've got Sun, Mars, and the Moon in the most southern part of the chart in opposition to Uranus, and he died by electrocution.
Right.
There's no coincidence there.
Not at all.
There is no coincidence there.
That's very amazing, especially once again, like the, I mean.
I feel like more is about to come out here.
About him, right?
Yeah, look at his MC, 16 of Taurus.
That's what I was thinking, like, especially after the nodal return and how that might come through.
Especially like next year, maybe, there's going to be more that's going to come out about this. Or there may be rights to his story, or there may be other people who want to discuss or like talk about, Jupiter's going to go into his 7th, Uranus is getting his MC, Saturn's in a trine to his Neptune. There may be more that comes out about him in this next year.
Uranus is actually squaring his Pluto and opposing his Jupiter too.
So he lives on.
That's wild.
Let's look at...
My bad, that's what I was going to say. So far, we've confirmed the 4th house. So that said, yeah.
But also the Venus square Pluto.
Yep.
Right? It's 7 degrees, but it's a square. All right, let's look at Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, born... Here we go.
Gemini.
May 21st, 1960. 4:34 p.m. in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I have a theory that like most serial killers come from Wisconsin.
We gotta do the astrocartography of Wisconsin. That's interesting.
There's nothing else to do there other than just like kill people and shovel snow,
What was the life path of Ted Bundy?
That's a good question. What do you have to do? You add this up?
Life path 1, okay.
Oh, okay.
And then Dahmer was the life path 6. Which is wild.
That's terrible. He used to look normal. Okay, so Jeffrey Dahmer. So he's got a 19 degrees Libra rising, a 19 degrees Aries moon. Sounds like me. Sun in Gemini in the 8th. Conjunct Mercury in Gemini. Coming out of Taurus, but technically it's in the 8th. But look at this, Saturn in the 4th.
Yep, there we go.
His chart looks like mine. Libra rising, Saturn in the 4th, Aries moon.
Right.
Fuck.
Except instead of Sun in Taurus, it's in instead of Sun in Scorpio, it's coming out of Taurus.
Right. Maybe somebody's gonna murder me.
And then once again, just like Ted Bundy, they both have Uranus in the 10th, and their reputation is weird. It's like being famous for something villainous. Uranus is like the...
Actually, no, Saturn's in his 3rd. I take that back. This is weird.
No, but it's still in the sign in the 4th, so you're right. If we did the whole signs, it would be 4th.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's wild.
Moon Mars, notice this aspect between
Right.
both of them now. You know, maybe violence towards women or attacking women. But
Right.
Jeffrey Dahmer was an extra special kind of fucked up. An American
Forcible sodomy.
serial killer killed at least 17 men and boys between 78 and 91. The majority of them occurring between 89 and 91. His murders were particularly gruesome, involving acts of forcible sodomy, necrophilia, dismemberment, and cannibalism. One thing that I would say is also just the fact that he does have Saturn in hard aspect to his MC,
And his Mars and his moon and his rising.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He used to eat them, right? Right.
Cannibalism.
I think he used to eat them. Yeah. From what I remember.
Mercury and Gemini with Lilith, so that's the perverted thinking, but also the sharp thinking, being able to communicate away, play dumb, all that.
Also, that Mars is in a masculine sign conjunct the moon. So, so what within this would insinuate or suggest that he had a preference for boys?
The masculinity with the Aries.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, Moon Aries, you would know, but especially the Mars, just like really short to get angry, really short temper, really riled up, which it's interesting we see these fire profiles because it's that rage and passion that inspires one to really have the push and drive to do that. But I would say really the Mars and Aries, seeing that he has, because he does have like, no, he doesn't have that much feminine energy.
No, but he does have Venus in hard angle to Uranus.
In Taurus too.
And
Right.
he also does have that Sun quincunx Neptune. Right? I think there's some like weird childhood shit with this chart.
No, definitely. And we can't forget Lilith. I feel like Lilith does have its play, and Lilith does sextile Uranus here. So we see distortions with these pure energies.
Well, just the fact that he's got Sun, Mercury, Lilith, all in Gemini, in the 8th house, some
Sun,
kind of
King,
like,
Neptune.
you know, this Mercury is within the rays of the sun. There's obviously some weird kind of sexual perversion, wanting to break things down, separate things. It's very Gemini, right? Like, especially like surgically in the 8th house.
And with Virgo too, Pluto and Virgo.
Woof.
You know what? He has Sun square Pluto. I don't know. I didn't even see
Which
that.
is happening actually right now. The Sun in Libra is in a square to Pluto, like today,
Oh,
the next
yeah,
couple
the
days.
next 4
That's why
days.
I wanted to do the serial killer episode now.
That's why. So we had with Ted Bundy, Sun and Sag trine Pluto, and now we have the Sun square
Which
Pluto.
is why I think not that he got away with it, but it was much more like, yeah, you know. Did he ever really admit to anything? That I don't know. He did, right?
He confessed to like 30 of the murders, but then he also has Jeffrey Dahmer has Venus square Uranus.
So Venus in hard aspect to Uranus, but
Yeah.
still all that 8th house energy. I mean, like, you can
Oh,
have a
yeah.
stellium of planets in the 8th house. It doesn't mean you're a serial killer, but I think that specifically being in
He
Gemini,
probably thought of killing someone.
you
Right.
know.
And then the Mars and Aries acted on it, which is crazy too, because now you have that aggression in the 7th towards other people, and festering it and feeling it, and that unpredictability trying.
Well, and Mercury square the nodes, right?
Yep.
And Mercury's super hidden because it's in the 8th.
And then there was that mass murders having Pluto in the 11th, and so that we also see that too, which I wouldn't have really thought about that, but it's amazing to see 11th house of like groups of people and him killing a lot of people. So with Mars trying that from the 6th, 7th there, so this is very interesting to profile these.
All right, so let's look at a last one. We've got John Wayne Gacy.
Double Pisces.
March 17th, 1942, 12:29 a.m. from Chicago.
Light Path 9.
Here's what's interesting. So he's got 1 degree Sag rising.
Oh, he's got
This
the
chart
sun
is
on the-
fucked up.
Wow.
Holy shit. Look at how fucked up this chart is.
Sun and Moon on the south node opposite Neptune. That's deep.
Sun and Moon in the late degrees of Pisces,
Right.
square Lilith.
Lilith, ooh, in the 8th, no, 7th, becoming in the 8th. He has Pluto
Fuck.
in the 8th. Once again, we see Mars in the 7th with Uranus and Saturn. So it's interesting to see Mars in the 7th again, because this is aggression towards other people. And then Jupiter expands it. But I'm really fascinated about, we got the Venus square, but the Neptune opposite Sun is very deeply fascinating to me on the South Node.
Super secretive too. Right. Notice that there's been a reoccurring theme of heavy 4th house placements.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Heavy 4th house placements. People, what they're doing privately. So, John Wayne Gacy was an American serial killer, convicted and later executed for the rape and murder of 33 boys and men, 27 of them who he buried in his crawl space under the floor of his house.
Killer clown.
While others were found by nearby rivers between 72 and 78, he became notorious as the clown killer because of the many block parties he threw for his friends and neighbors, entertaining children in a clown suit
Pogo
and
the
makeup.
Clown. That's Neptune on the MC. He was destined for that type of success. But once again, we see an outer planet here in the 10th, which is a weird sense of fame. It's like an infamy. And not only that, we have the Pisces, but once again, it's just very fascinating. Oh, there we go. We know that the ruler of the 4th house is the conditions of death, and the ruler of his 4th is in the 10th.
He was also he was an artist.
Ooh,
so not a lot of people know that. If you've been to the Museum of Death in LA, if you've gone there and you've seen, they have all kinds of self-portraits and paintings and doodles and sketches and paintings and things that Gacy did. I have a client of mine who recently reached out to me and was like, hey, I acquired this piece of art and I think it's super bad juju and it's haunted. What do I do? And I was like, well, what is it? And I was like, you can put it in a boxed frame, and you can put a seal or a sigil, and you can just bind it if you want to do that, so you can show it in your house. And then he sent me a photo of it. It's my tattoo artist, and he was like, yeah, it's one of Gacy's pics. And I was like, you're fucked up.
You bought
I'm like, you would want that to have that in your house? And anyways, so what's fascinating though is that the sun and the moon and the later degrees of Pisces obviously is
Sag rising. You know what I found out this weekend? My friend's father, who got kicked out of the Marines but ended up doing some mercenary work, is a hitman. And he has a sun on the MC next to Pluto in Libra, moon in Taurus, and he's a sniper, and he's a Sag rising, the sharpshooter.
I feel like Sag and Gemini and Pisces, and I'm not basing this off of what I've seen, this is just 14 years of reading charts and talking to people. For sure, Sagittarius and Geminis are the most likely to fucking kill people.
See, and it's cool because Gemini usually will get in trouble for petty small crime, maybe minor fraud. But I feel like Gemini is just a switch of the mind away. Everyone's wondering if Carol Baskins really killed who she killed or not, right? A Gemini woman. And I feel like for Gemini, it's a mystery, but Sagittarius can just flip that switch and murk you. And they get so overtaken with passion. And being as adventurous as they are, I think it's hard to turn that switch off. But that's another thing. There's so many people who have charts of a serial killer who've never killed anybody, which is another thing too, to see, what's the trigger that activates it or not. And that's, so just because you see these aspects, right, doesn't mean you have to worry, right? But
just because you don't do it doesn't mean you don't think about it either. That's the other thing. I'm fucking dark, dude. I'm fucking dark.
That's the Pluto.
I'm coming out of Pluto square my moon, and I'm just there are definitely some people that I could, but I don't need that on my conscience. I just don't. I could never do it. I could never do it. But if somebody called me and was like, yo, Candace, we need to bury a body, I'd be like, I got you.
Just make sure your phone ain't tapped. That's how
this is fucked up. This is a fucked up one, especially when you look at the descendant and just the gangbusters of Saturn, Uranus, Mars, Jupiter. Clearly, the interaction that he has with people are sudden, right? It's sudden. And I feel like there's some weird, there's some major psychological issues. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but anybody who's gonna be a mass murderer or a serial killer is obviously got a screw or two loose. But this one's extra fucked up. Sun and Moon, square Uranus, square Mars, opposed Neptune. The perception in which he had of other people, or the way that he
Plus, I always feel like
others.
Every Pisces has a secret Pisces moons especially have this philosophy where it's like, it's better if you're dead because heaven's a better place. So they'll truly believe
That's
that.
some Heaven's Gate shit.
Right. They'll truly believe
You should look at that guy. He's fucked up.
That would be interesting too. That's some aspect. So actually I have a question for you. I noticed that with John Gacy, and I don't know if it's Bundy or Dahmer, there's a lot of 13-degree placements. Like he has the 13-degree trine and then the square. And was it Dahmer who I think it was
Dahmer?
It was Bundy.
It was Bundy?
Yeah. You had the
very prominent Mars Uranus aspects. That's kind of what I'm noticing with these charts.
There we go. Bundy had the 13-degree trine at 13 Pluto and then 13 Scorpio. So I don't think that's like a rule. I think that's just an interesting coincidence or just like an
I feel like of all of them, just like looking at the charts, like if you were to be like, Candace, who's the most terrifying person to get murdered by out of this trio? Hands down, it would be Gacy.
That's
hands down. At least
I think he'd be the most
Ted Bundy's gonna fuck you, and at least Dahmer's gonna like do it quickly. But like Gacy's fucking terrifying.
Gacy's gonna bring the whole experience.
He's gonna have the lights and the action and like the fucking clown
Truly
suit.
terrifying.
That's super terrifying. I imagine just looking at his chart too, that there's a lot more, you know, with the Jupiter transits that are coming, the Neptune transits. I wonder if there's gonna be some action revolving around his property or his house or where he lived, or if they start doing with Neptune and Jupiter coming into conjunction with his sun. If that house still stands or if that property is still active, I imagine they're going to start doing a lot of paranormal investigations within that space, just given his transits. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to want to be going there and
revisiting it and all that.
Yeah. It's fucked up, especially Mercury on the cusp right there, right?
Right, which is the 10th house ruler and the 7th house ruler.
There's definitely something to be said about just what's going on with the house right now. Like, I need to look at this. I have to see what's going on here. There's got to be something to this. Hold on.
Like anything developing or something like that?
Well, I wonder if the house is still there.
Oh, with this actual house.
If they're doing tours, you know, if they're trying to sell it.
And that sounds like the type of motherfucker whose ghost is haunting people still. Probably.
Here we go. House on site of John Wayne Gacy's former home sells. This is May 2021 when Jupiter was there. Astrology does not lie. After more than a year on the market, when Jupiter conjunct Mercury in the IC.
That was when it was a little bit in Pisces too, right?
It just started.
Whole house, fourth house.
The home built on the site of the former Chicago residence is finally off the market after going up for sale in 2019.
That's wild.
And sold.
Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Who the fuck would want to live there?
Who would want a painting?
Who the fuck would want to live there? It looks like a nice house, but
right.
33 victims, 29 bodies were buried in this home.
They're probably gonna make it into some kind of like.
They're gonna make it into some fucking Airbnb with some flashlights and some.
This used to be a haunted. This is a haunted Airbnb.
Well, they're doing that. They're doing that for a couple places. They're doing that from I think the Amityville Horror House.
Ooh.
You can stay at now. There's a couple different. I don't know. I feel like just the astrology of a haunting would be like a whole other really cool, really interesting episode, because I definitely feel like.
Oh my God! Today is the 13th, and you're wearing a 13 shirt.
That's my lucky number.
I love it. That's awesome.
Look at that mustache. God, he's a scary piece of shit.
Jesus.
Ugh. I can't believe that.
Born on a new moon.
Some dark shit.
That's
I didn't know
deep.
he was sentenced to death in 1980, but he wasn't executed until 94. So it was a Saturn opposition.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy. Imagine
right?
sitting around for 14 years in a jail cell knowing that you're going to be killed.
Opposition to his son?
Yeah. No, Saturn opposition. So when they sentenced him to death in 1980, they actually executed him in 94. It was 14 years.
So he
sat on death row for 14 years, basically.
Okay. Yeah, that's deep.
Late degrees of Pisces.
That was when Saturn. Oh my God, dude!
Yeah.
Saturn is the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And so he died when that's crazy.
Yeah, hence why I wore the shirt.
Executed. That's insane. So the Grim Reaper literally.
That's some dark shit.
That is pretty dark.
And
Holy
he
shit.
confessed to dumping other bodies in the river near Chicago.
That's crazy.
Yuck.
So that'll be quite the Saturn return. 30 years after he's been killed, his home is sold.
Wow. Maybe we'll do an episode about that in the future, or talk about Maybe like the astrology of.
Could you imagine
stuff.
getting haunted by the ghost of a serial killer?
I mean, it depends on which one is it. Is it Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy was so handsome. No, he wasn't. He was handsome in that pool of people. In the group of men who have murdered and raped 40 or more women. Ted's a catch.
That's the crazy thing too, because once again, like, who's Dexter out here? And I don't want to just reference Dexter, but like, I'm very fascinated at how easy it is to get away with murder, and how, you know, people your whole life can think you're an upstanding citizen, but like,
is it easy though?
Traffic children.
I mean, maybe it's easier now if you're not in the system.
If you got cleaners, if it's like John Wick, like if you have people, mafia people used to do it all the time. You hear me? Like, so.
I feel like if you're not in the system, like if you're just like your average white male and you're not in the system and like you just like live in the suburbs, like maybe you could get away with it better than most people, maybe.
Right, if you had that. But see, that's another thing. Like, we see the Uranus aspects to Mars, we see the Neptune aspects, so there's a lot of strategy and just psychological understanding to know. I mean, being able to bury. Oh, then again, this was back in the day, so it'd be.
But
easier
also
to get
notice
away with
these were years when there were some hard Saturn-Uranus aspects. Which we're in right now. We are in a year of Saturn-Uranus squares, right? We're definitely dealing with that. And there's been a couple of things that have cropped up in the news that have been notable. But perhaps maybe when we have some Saturn-Uranus conjunctions, and especially I think about like down the road, you know, when we have maybe Saturn-Neptune in a couple of years, or when Jupiter-Uranus conjunct in Taurus, or when Saturn moves into Taurus in 7 years, I think we'll see maybe another wave of some of this stuff for sure.
I truly believe that Pluto going into Aquarius will bring a resurgence. Oh, did you hear about those high school kids? Or like there was this one little kid who was profiled. He's like, yeah, I just want to murder everybody. He was just a small kid, and he's like, yeah, I just like to murder people, and I just want to kill people.
So
and like,
video games do to the minds of young children.
Instagram took the video down so quick, and the kid was like, oh, I mean, I don't have anything against other people. I just want to kill them. And then the person who asked him was like, would you murder me? And he's like,
Pluto and Cap
no,
are
I wouldn't.
children. I often
Pluto
wonder,
and Cap, right,
I often wonder about the kids who were born with the Saturn-Pluto-Jupiter conjunction last
so
year.
Extreme, right.
Yeah.
They're going to turn 30, and then the only ones as powerful as them are those born 88, 89, 90. And we have Jupiter in its exaltation. They have Jupiter in the fall. So that's the only thing we have against
but we have Jupiter in opposition to Saturn.
That's right. But it completes it though. It completes the power.
I'll give you that.
And so they got the fall, but still, you're right. Like it's still rivals. So
some shit. Well, you have some bragging rights too. You got that Mars and Aries and Saturn and Cap and
Pluto and Scorpio.
I've got that. I've got a lot of that stuff. I don't. Yeah, I have 4 planets in each side, so I'm just super like Aspergery.
82.
I think Pluto and Aqua is going to be serial killing of celebrities. And it's not going to be safe to actually come out.
It's going to be the end of like celebrity culture.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be over. It's not going to be cool to be a celebrity
from the
anymore.
It's going to be dangerous to be a celebrity.
It's going to be a lot of vigilantes too,
A lot of vigilantism. So a lot of the lines will be blurred on what's vigilante murder and what's like mass murder. And
you telling me like Batman's really going to show up?
I swear to God.
I hope so.
Have you seen Watchmen? Like these we're going to see people in costumes eventually, because there's still the whole police
because it's the polarity of like Pluto and Leo, the exaltation.
Exactly. Oh, right.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be.
Pluto's exalted in Leo?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be in its fall in Aquarius?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh no. Oh, this is
I believe
terrifying.
Pluto's exalted in Leo. Hold on.
Oh, this is
It is, right?
Wild.
I think it is. Pluto is an exaltation in Aquarius, Pisces, and Leo. Oh, wait.
You're right.
Yeah, Pluto's exalted in Leo. I thought so.
Oh,
okay.
gosh.
So it's going to be in
It's going to be ugly.
It's going to be in its fall.
Yeah, in Aquarius. And we know that when Pluto was in Aquarius, a lot of people died in this country.
Well,
not even because of anything
it's
bad.
literally a mass
extinction.
extinction.
Exactly.
Mass
extinction. Oh my God,
now,
mass extinction
we have Saturn
events.
in fucking Aquarius. What do you think is going to happen when Pluto shows up in about 2 years?
Except everything about this apocalypse so far has been manufactured, even down to reports of farmers being paid to destroy their crops, like they're manufacturing famine. So Pluto going Aquarius is going to be very fascinating.
I mean, Pluto and Leo, Pluto and Scorpio, Pluto and Leo, Pluto and Scorpio.
Yeah.
Pluto and Leo has its own special shine, but I don't know. I have Pluto and Mars in Scorpio, so I feel like I'm like, fuck you.
Mass extinction events for sure, especially due to serial killing. So
Oh God.
after the destabilization of government authority. So get ready, folks.
Get ready for it's gonna be like
Quite the revolution.
what is it? It's gonna be like what's that movie where they like
Purge?
The Purge? Might be a thing.
Oh yeah.
Might be a thing.
No, it's gonna come back.
Let us know what you guys think. What aspects do you have in your chart that's similar to a serial killer?
Are you a serial killer?
They would never
Show
admit
us
to
some
it.
love. Just don't come up in person and show us some love. Like, we don't need that. Don't Mike Myers like.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. It's a little weird and wacky, but it's Scorpio season and it's Halloween time, so we had to give you guys something kind of spooky to kind of mull over. If you have any ideas for new content or videos, let us know below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and hit that bell button so you know when the latest videos on our channel come out.
Yeah.
Both Mike and I also have personal channels. You can check them out at The Peace Dealer or my channel at Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. You're more than welcome to book sessions with us. And do consider subscribing and helping support the channel. It makes it possible for us to get beer and lighting and equipment and all kinds of stuff that we need to keep this going. We will see all of you guys very soon. Have a happy and healthy week ahead. Take care.
Peace.